Hey everybody, it's Dr. Eric Balkowicz. We're back for another edition of Thyroid Thursday, and today we're doing another lab interpretation. I did a discovery call with a potential new client the other day. I do these discovery calls every day during my lunch break to try and answer questions for people who are struggling with questions they have about thyroid physiology. Sometimes people call because they want to understand what it means to work with me. But this is a person who really wanted my opinion because they were getting conflicting opinions from their medical doctor and a functional/integrative practitioner. So I'll walk you through what the labs were and what the discussion was and the questions this person had, and then I'll answer those, and maybe this can help some of you. So the person has chronic hypothyroid signs and symptoms: gaining weight, thinning eyebrows, constipation, menstrual irregularity, so all the classic signs and symptoms that we might expect in somebody who's got a thyroid regulation challenge, okay? So they go to their medical doctor, and their medical doctor thought they had a thyroid condition as well, ran a TSH and a free T4. TSH is 2.5, that's within the lab reference range. Some people in integrative and functional medicine would say it's too high, it's outside the optimal range. We have to look at the value of TSH in context with the rest of the labs and somebody's age, time of the year it's being done, time of the day it's being done. And then free T4 was 1.3, and that's within the lab range. It's also considered to be within what might be considered an optimal or functional range. And so the MD said, you're not hypothyroid, there's no need for treatment, and gave some diet recommendation and lifestyle recommendations, and said, hey, come back and see me in 6 months. Frustrated, this person went to a functional or integrative practitioner. That person ran a little bit more comprehensive panel. I would have liked to have seen more here: a total T4, a total T3, a T3 uptake, because I think those values are important. But TSH 2.67, essentially what it was before. Free T4 was about the same at 1.33, but this practitioner ran free T3, and this was 2.4. So lab-wise, this is within the reference range. In functional and integrative medicine, this is often considered to be too low. Now, again, we need to consider context. Was the person fasting? Were they on a keto type diet? What time of the day? What was going on the day before? Are they exercising? We have to take into consideration what's going on, but keep in mind that this might be considered a little bit low in a functional and integrative practice. Reverse T3 was 18.2. Somebody might consider that. It's still within the lab reference range, but a lot of functional and integrative practitioners think it's too high because they think that it is a blocking T3 T3 from binding to receptors, which is the case in this situation. TPO antibodies were 13. Those are considered normal by the lab reference range. Thyroglobulin antibodies were elevated. Free T4, free T4. I did this calculation. The practitioner did not do this, with 0.22. So this practitioner diagnosed her with Hashimoto's thyroiditis and recommended T3 medication. And now the patient's confused, and she's like, do I have a thyroid condition or don't I have a thyroid condition? How could one practitioner say I don't have a thyroid condition and the other one say I do? So her questions on the discovery call were, MD says no thyroid problem, no treatment. Functional doctor says Hashi's in T3. Who's right? I think both are right, okay, to some degree, and both are wrong. Does this person have a thyroid-related condition going on? Yes, they do. If you look at their free T3 to free T4 ratio, I don't know the whole history, but when you see a free T3 to free T4 ratio at 0.22, when you're using picomoles per liter, same units, at 0.22, this is lab low. So this is a person who's not doing a great job converting the available T4 into T3 inside the cells and tissues. And so this is a person who's going to have likely reduced T3 inside the cells and tissues, and that's going to result in hypothyroid signs and symptoms. Now, the question is that broken physiology, or is that an adaptive response to some type of cell stress response, which is typically what I see going on? The body's not broken. The body didn't forget how to convert T4 to T3. They're adaptively decreasing the conversion of T4 to T3 due to some type of stress response. So I do believe the person has a thyroid-related condition, but I agree with the MD. This is a person who doesn't have a glandular dysfunction, which is what the MD is trying to fix or address. They're still making, at least based on the limited labs we have, there still seems to be making enough free T4. So if there's enough free T4 in the system, why aren't they converting it to T3? So I don't think this person needs more T4. So I agree there. Does this person need T3 like the integrative practitioner says? In my opinion, no. Could that free T3 or giving them T3 medication make them feel better? Yes. But what would that do? That would suppress TSH. It would also drop the T4, and in time, they're not going to have enough T4 in circulation. And it doesn't actually address the root issue, which is they are favoring the deactivation of T4 to reverse T3 and not the activation to T3. So if this is an adaptive response and the cells and tissues are actively decreasing the conversion of T4 to T3, why do we think putting more T3 into the system is going to be beneficial for the patient? Sure, they may feel a little bit better temporarily until the body starts deactivating the T3, and then they're going to need more T3, and they're going to want it. It's like giving somebody any kind of drug. The second question is that MD says reverse T3 and free T3 are not relevant. The integrative practitioner says they are. Who's right? To the MD who's only prescribing T4 medication when the gland's exhausted, reverse T3 and free T3 do not matter. They're not relevant to what they're doing. They're trying to replace thyroid hormone T4 when the gland can't make it anymore. And right now, the lab values do not justify treatment. But are these values relevant? They are. They tell us a story that the body is favoring the deactivation. What they don't tell us is this is the person who needs T3 replacement. Number 3 question was, if no thyroid disorder, what do I have? I call this a cell stress response or tissue hypothyroidism. This person likely has something create an excessive cell stress response that's reducing the conversion of T4 to T3 and increasing the immune response and potentially some thyroiditis. Number 4, if no thyroid disorder, why do I have hypothyroid signs and symptoms? And the answer for that is there's not appropriate levels of T4 to T3 conversion inside the cells. Therefore, the person's having hypothyroid signs and symptoms. And where there is, in the tissues where there is that reduced T4 to T3 conversion, those are the tissues that they're going to feel the most signs and symptoms. Other questions, she said the functional or integrative practitioner said that her antibodies were destroying her thyroid gland and was concerned about that. Her antibodies aren't destroying her thyroid gland. She has no TPO antibodies. Her thyroid globulin antibodies are positive, but they don't create actual gobble up the gland. What drives thyroiditis is the T cell system and the infiltrating lymphocytes going into the thyroid gland. That creates most of the damage. So that is not really a true statement. Number 6, decreased ability to convert T4 to T3, and therefore she needs T3. So the integrative practitioner is saying she can't do it very well, and therefore the answer is to give it to her. She did not wake up one day and her body forgot how to convert T4 to T3. Could she have a polymorphism that reduces the conversion of T4 to T3? Yes, but if she's had a pretty good life all the way to the point of her signs and symptoms starting in her diagnosis and all this going on, then she has the ability to convert it, but the reduced conversion is likely an adaptive response. Number 7, she wanted to know, the functional or integrative practitioner said taking T3 will lower TSH and lower the reverse T3, and the reverse T3 is blocking T3 from working. Yes, the T3 will lower the TSH because it'll saturate the hypothalamus and pituitary, and TSH will go down. Is that good? Probably not, because then there'll be less T4 production. Does decreasing the TSH lower reverse T3? Well, sure. If you take more T3, TSH goes down. There's less T4. There's less T4 to be deactivated to reverse T3. But if the cells are still in a defensive mode and decreasing the conversion of T4 to T3, if you just flood the system with T3, you're also going to get deactivation of T3 to T2, and reverse T3 does not block the receptor. The last question was, the physician said taking T3 will make her feel better because it is the active hormone, and it probably will make her feel better, probably temporarily, and then more than likely, as the body starts deactivating more of the T3, she'll want and need more, and as she takes more T3 and TSH is suppressed, she's going to have more hypothyroid symptoms because there's less available T4. So what my suggestion is, find somebody who's looking at you from a cell tissue perspective and helping you identify what's creating the cell stress response. And then you'll have better T4 to T3 conversion and you'll feel and function better. All right? Put any comments and questions below the video.